Jim Chalmers says global uncertainty is playing havoc with the nation's finances.
It's clear now that the rules that underpinned global economic engagement for more than 40 years are being rewritten. The whole world has changed. We've seen that change accelerate since Inauguration Day in the US. Developments since then have not been surprising, but they have been seismic. And as a trading nation, Australia has a lot at stake.
To get more on the changing economic outlook, I spoke to our chief business correspondent, Ian Verrender. The OECD is predicting lower growth next year because of all this uncertainty.
Well, that's right. I mean, they've come out overnight and essentially downgraded Australia's prospects for next year. They did have around 2.5%, 2.4 I think it was, penciled in growth for Australia. That's been marked down now to 1.8%. So a big drop there, and largely because of all this uncertainty that's been created by Donald Trump's trade wars. You know, there's tariffs against China, Mexico, Canada, now Australia and other aluminium and steel producers, plus possibly Europe as well. So this is all going to work against the economy.
And what are the immediate impacts of these tariffs and I guess the longer term impacts as well?
Well, the immediate one's going to be with growth particularly, and you've seen that with the OECD numbers there. Now, directly, the aluminium and steel tariffs, around about 0.02% hit to the economy. That's pretty tiny in the overall scheme of things. But the indirect impact from these tariffs and the trade wars, about 4 times that amount. So it gets up to around about, 0.1%. That's not an insignificant number. And then, of course, you just don't know where it's going to go globally with retaliation and so forth. But there's also the prospect that we could get an inflationary breakout because American consumers are going to pay for a lot of these tariffs. That inflation breakout could spread to the rest of the world. And then we could be caught in this situation where we've got declining growth with an inflation breakout. That's known as stagflation. It's incredibly difficult to fix if you're a central banker.
So I guess we're not expecting any big spending surprises or big tax cuts in the budget.
No, not at all. I mean, the Treasurer today essentially said, look, we've announced pretty much everything we're going to announce because they weren't expecting to deliver a budget because, they had planned in to have call the election before having to present the budget. They're now going to do that. So really the only things that are in there are the Medicare spending initiatives. I think that's cost about $18 billion. Nothing really special after that. I mean, we've got increased defence spending over the next few years. It's going to be deficits for another decade, really. But look, it wasn't all bad news on the economy today. Sarah Hunter, the chief economist from the Reserve Bank, was talking at a meeting in Sydney, and she outlined some fairly good news.
Spending on the types of goods that tend to have significant sales, such as household goods, homewares, clothing, they did grow quite strongly in the December quarter. But we also saw a modest lift in household disposable income from the middle of 2024, so the fundamentals were getting better. And discretionary spending that wasn't impacted by those sales, for example, eating out, also showed some signs of picking up.
Were these numbers expected, Ian?
Well, look, a lot of economists saw the numbers that came out from the December quarter figures, or the December monthly figures especially, with retail sales, and were a bit dubious about them because they thought, look, maybe this has all just been brought forward by the Black Friday sales and so forth, but the Reserve Bank has dug quite a bit deeper into these numbers, and it seems as though they were quite convinced that there is a turn in the economy. And obviously, as she referred to then, we've got, increased income from people because inflation has gone down while real wages have grown. And of course, you've had a rate cut on the top of that. So there has been a turnaround in consumer confidence.
All right, Ian, thanks for speaking to The Business.
Thanks, Nadia.